These are the technology stories that look small at first, then reveal a bigger system underneath. From game mechanics to hardware choices to physical infrastructure, each one hides a surprising design decision. A game photo can end up on paper. In new Pokémon Snap, the picture you take does not stay trapped on the screen. New Pokémon Snap is built around photographing Pokémon. The player moves through the game, frames a shot, and captures a moment inside the virtual world. After the shot is saved, it becomes a selectable photograph. That image can then move from the game's camera workflow into a print option. The print step turns pixels into paper. A digital image leaves the console side of the process and comes out as a real photograph. So the souvenir is not just a file. It is a held print, with Pokémon frozen in a small sheet you can keep on a desk. A publisher asked Guinness to judge a game by one strange number: how many enemies could appear on screen at once? The game was Serious Sam 2, and the claim focused on enemies displayed simultaneously, not just enemies scattered through the whole game. That matters because on-screen density is a display problem. The game has to draw many moving figures at once, while keeping the scene readable, so the record idea becomes a test of the game's presentation. It turns crowding into a measurable target, not just a chaotic moment. In that sense, Guinness is being used like a scoreboard for screen density. The prize is a packed battlefield, a publisher petition, and a very crowded screen. This MacBook uses a chip from an iPhone. Not the usual M-series silicon. Apple calls it the MacBook Neo. It was announced March 4, 2026, and released March 11. That makes it the first Mac to use an A-series chip, the kind used in iPhone and iPad devices. Apple positions it below the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro as the entry-level MacBook. That lets Apple build a cheaper laptop. The result is Apple's least expensive laptop ever sold. A MacBook with an iPhone-style chip now sits on the shelf. Wikipedia got turned into a card-collecting gacha game. Same encyclopedia, totally different first click. A Japanese developer built a game from Wikipedia as source material. The point was the interface, not new articles. The game uses gacha mechanics, a collection system built around chance. Wikipedia entries become cards you try to assemble. That turns reading into collecting. You stop browsing a page and start chasing the next card in the set. The source stays Wikipedia, but the behavior loop shifts. Same facts, now arranged like a deck on a table. A surgeon practices on a grape, and one slip can bruise it instantly. That tiny fruit is soft, smooth, and easy to damage. So it becomes a stand-in for delicate tissue. The point is precision tools and fine motor control. The grape forces each movement to stay tiny and exact. If the hand shakes, the grape shows it immediately. That instant feedback makes it useful for practice. So a fruit becomes a scale test, small enough to punish rough movement, simple enough to repeat on a tray. A 3D printer making a monument sounds impossible until you see Teahi Tupua. It is a sculpture, reportedly the largest 3D printed one in the world. Most 3D printing starts with small parts, test pieces, or prototypes. Teahi Tupua pushes that same method into public art. The key is additive manufacturing, building by adding material layer by layer. That slow stack of layers can scale upward into a single large object. At that scale, the printer is no longer making a sample. It is producing a public artwork that has to stand in real space, so the shock is not just the size. It is a printed form large enough to meet the eye, the plaza, and the sky. One historic street looks mixed on purpose, not by accident. Its buildings don't match, because they were rebuilt in layers after fires. This is Coulterville Main Street Historic District. After major fires, the town rebuilt the street more than once. Each rebuild used different materials and construction methods. That left a visible timeline in the architecture, from one wall to the next. Because the district is historic, those later repairs stayed in place. The street became a preserved record of recovery, not a single frozen style. Walk down Main Street, and the buildings read like stacked chapters. Wood, brick, and stone sit together along the curb. A port railroad once hauled a circus train. Not just lumber and fertilizer, but a circus consist on freight rails. This was Port Manatee Railroad, a freight line tied to port logistics. Its usual cargo was lumber and fertilizer. Then came the odd part. At one point, the same line carried a circus train, using the same freight track. That meant one railroad could switch between everyday bulk cargo and a special movement. The track stayed the same, but the load changed. So a single port line could serve pallets, fertilizer hoppers, and a circus consist. In the yard, the next car waits beside the rails. That's the pattern. The most interesting tech stories are often the ones with the quietest consequences. If you want more factual system breakdown stories like this, subscribe and tell us which one surprised you most.